to the spring season 2025 3-month plan workshop. I typically hold these workshops for my clients that are already in the Empowered Principal Collaborative, but with the start of a new year in January of 2025, I wanted to give you a taste of what it feels like to be planned and prepared 90 days out, 3 months out, to be 3 months ahead of where your teachers are thinking, 3 months ahead for yourself. Just to know that you have the next 90 days mapped out. Can you imagine how it would feel if you did this work this week? Imagine how the next 3 months are going to feel. And by then, we'll have already held another session planning for your summer, because you're planning your summer and planning your fun and your rest and all your travel or all your relaxation and catching up on your sleep and being with your kids and your family and your friends and your loved ones. All of that is equally important to plan, just like the school year is to plan. So what's fun about right now is it's January. We're kind of hibernating. There's a little lull after all the rush of the holidays and New Year's celebrations. But we want to capture the momentum of the new year momentum and all the new year energy and the New Year's resolutions. And we just finished up the mid-year reboot here in the Empowered Principal world. And we want to capture that while we're planning. We want to dream big, but we also want to create this balance of planning and doing, but then trusting the process, trusting the plan, believing in yourself, trusting yourself to do the things you have to do, but also including rest, recovery, some play, and enjoying your life. This is about fulfillment. So for those of you who are brand new to the world of the Empowered Principal, welcome. I'm so honored you're here today. It's so great to be together. My name is Angela Kelly. I'm a former teacher, elementary teacher, taught kindergarten, first grade, reading specialist. I was an instructional coach. I became a principal at 2 different sites within my district, 2 polar opposite schools. One was my home school. So I became the boss of my peers of 15 years. But prior to that, my first 2 years, I was a brand new principal opening a brand new campus, a brand new school. It was wild. I have so many stories to share with you on that. And that is one of the reasons, the pain I went through those first 2 years and then transitioning and figuring out how to work those relationships with people, going from being a peer to being a leader and navigating those relationships. It's given me depth and perspective on the nuance of leadership, the nuance of running a school. So there is the component of all the actions you have to take and the planning. We're going to talk about that today, how to actually plan and execute on that plan. But there's a balance that comes with trusting. This is when we trust the plan, when we trust ourselves, when we honor our calendar, when we honor the things we say that are the priority, and we actually do those things, we don't have to overschedule and overwork and overexert ourselves. So let me walk you through the process. This is a practice and a process that I typically hold for just my clients in EPC, which is the Empowered Principal Collaborative. But I wanted in 2025 to gift you with the experience of what it feels like to be planned out 90 days ahead, 3 months ahead, to chunk your work into 90 days and then down into 30-day segments. So it feels doable and easy and simple. You're not having to think out, what am I going to do from now all the way until June? You could backwards map that out, but it's easier for your brain if we break it into 90-day chunks into the 3-month plan. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I have tried different variations of this plan. I did the 3-day plan, and then I was doing like the 3-week plan, and then I was trying everybody tries to plan for their month, and that gets a little overwhelming. So I was like, well, what about 3 weeks? And we're just every 3 weeks we're staying ahead. That can work too. The 3-day plan felt a little too not enough, but the 90-day plan feels, for me, it's like I can visualize out in 3 months from now, because 3 months goes by so quickly, and it still feels like a lot of time. So, and it's seasonal. I like the rhythm of the school year, the rhythm of the seasons, the rhythm of the calendar year. So right now here towards the end of January. We're planning out February, March, and April. And then I'll do this again. When you join EPC, you can join EPC right now. Doors are open. And then the next round, the summer session's really fun. We do a summer of fun challenge where I challenge people to have the most fun summer ever, because planning your fun, your rest, your leisure, your playtime, your, all that, recuperation and rejuvenation that you need over the summer, it's so vital. It's so crucial to your well-being and your fulfillment as a leader. So we want to plan that out with intention, just like we would plan out the school year. We want to plan out what it feels like to have a calendar full of fun. It's amazing. So I've done this work myself. I just finished my 3-month plan for my business for the next 3 months. I now know what I'm doing for my birthday in February. I know I'm going to visit a friend in February. I'm planning a spring break trip for myself to a warm climate. For those of you who are brand new, I have lived in California for 30 years and I just moved to Nashville to be closer to my son. So I'm in the middle of this frigid weather right now and I am freezing. I have blankets on my lap. I have the heat on, I have heaters on. I am adjusting poorly to the cold weather. So hopefully Nashville warms up, but I'm thinking palm trees and sunshine, but I have planned out my February, my birthday. I've planned out a trip in February. I'm planning out my spring break. The details are still there, but I set the intention that I would love to be able to go to Florida or somewhere warm and balmy in March. And then in April, my son's birthday's in April. I have friends coming on spring break to visit me in Nashville. So I want you to see how when you have fun on your calendar, it lights you up, it ignites you, it makes you feel excited to be alive, and you look forward to it, because anticipating the fun you're going to have in your future is just as much fun as actually having the fun. So it's very important that you put everything on the calendar. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about this. So the intention behind the 3-month plan is for you to feel good as a leader. Ultimately, the goal is to feel good. Now, I did not say the goal in life is to be happy all of the time. That's not the goal. And you probably heard people say that. I believe the goal is to feel as good as possible. As a leader, as a mother, as a wife, as a partner, as a friend, as a sister, as a brother, as an auntie, an uncle, all of it. It's to feel good, to be in alignment with yourself, to feel an integrity, to be proud of yourself, to appreciate all that we have, all the abundance around us. It's to feel good. Feeling good also means when you're grieving or when you're heartbroken, you're in that truth. It's a beautiful sadness. It's pain you choose to experience, because when you grieve somebody, you love them, and you're crying or you're sad or you're feeling heavy because of love that you feel for them. It's the way you're expressing your love for them. And the loss of being able to be in physical form together, on the planet, but you can remember them and cherish them and have nostalgia, which might feel sad, but it still feels good to love your people that much that you're sad when you can't be with them, or you're sad when you love somebody and there's a breakup or a divorce or a parting of ways and an end of a chapter in some kind of relationship that you're having. So, but feeling good as a school leader doesn't mean you're going to be happy all of the time. It means you're going to feel proud of yourself in the hardest of moments, when people are challenging you and the conditions are difficult, and you are feeling the pain of watching a student go through something really painful in their personal life, or a teacher go through something in their personal life. Living all of the feelings. Okay. So this is so much more than just putting tasks on your calendar, creating a to-do list, and then putting them on your calendar. It's so much more than that. It's about the feeling that's associated with being prepared. It's about the identity of who you are as a prepared principal. That is an empowered principal. Whether you're a district leader, site leader, aspiring leader, a teacher, You want to feel good, and you feel good when you're planned. And planning feels good because you know how good it's going to feel after the planning. So before the planning might feel like, ugh, but during the planning, you've got some momentum, and then afterwards, it feels good. So that's my goal here. It's great to know in your mind. It helps you sleep. It helps you relax at night when you're like, I know what's coming up for the day, for the week, for the month, for the season. It's nice to know, okay, do you know how fast the end of April is going to be here? It's going to be like that. So we want to spend these days with intention. We don't want them to happen to us. We want to plan and prepare for them. And yet there will be circumstances that arise. But when you're planned, there is a much higher chance that you will be able to handle emergencies, true interruptions, when there is a wipeout day. And I know that there is plenty of times, but when you're planned and prepared for the things you can anticipate, and and you backwards map them out, then the emergencies don't feel so crushing. They don't feel like they've wiped out any chance of success for the rest of the month or the rest of the day or the rest of the year. Okay. So the decisions that you make and the actions that you take, they are a mirror and they reflect what you value as a leader. So where you're spending your time, where your energy is going, where your mind is going, is it spinning out on all the problems? Is it spinning out on people and gossip? Is it spinning out on worrying what other people think about you? Is it spinning out about trying to, you're mad at the district for something? Where is your energy and focus going? That's what you're prioritizing. I read a beautiful quote on Instagram that said, when you worry about a problem, you are worshiping the problem. And I was like, whoa, we give so much fuel to what is working. We wake up and the first things we think about are, what do we have to do? What's not getting done? How we're not good enough? How we haven't worked out enough? How our body's this shape? How our skin looks like this? Or our hair's like this? Or we are so tired and, we're not being good enough, fill in the blank. And then we go to work and we're just focusing on what problems we need to solve today and what fires we need to put out. Those decisions and actions reflect what you value as a leader, what you think is the most important, what you believe to be true about your experience as a school leader. So the 3-month plan is going to invite you to actually go beyond a to-do list. We all know how to create a to-do list, but we have one that's kind of a rotating door. Same stuff on there. We just keep adding it, and the things that we actually did that we didn't have on the list, then we go and we write it down so we can check it off because we're looking for that dopamine hit to cross it off or check the box, right? This is going to invite you to prioritize, to learn how to prioritize and do it in a way that feels good for you. And constraint, really being able to say no to more on the plate versus sure, that's a no. Like what falls off the plate and the district's like, well, not really anything. But the truth is that something really does fall off because you're one human with X amount of hours in the day and X amount of energy. And we need to learn how to genuinely prioritize, genuinely delegate, genuinely constrain. Okay. Now, when you plan in advance, your brain has the time and space to anticipate obstacles and problem solve for them. When you don't plan ahead, and it seems simple, it's like that makes sense, right? It's like, of course, so I plan ahead, I'll have this time to anticipate what's coming up and backwards map. It sounds all good, but we tend not to do it. We think we're too busy and we don't plan in the way that we'd like to. And we don't really want to think of potential obstacles because then we're afraid we're going to manifest them into existence. That's not actually the case. We're just going to plan for them. If this should come up, then this. Or if I can't be the one to do it, this is who I'm going to have as a backup, who then becomes not your backup. They become the person because you learn how to delegate. So when you have time and you're not so close to the problem, you're more open to solutions and ideas and creativity to make sure that you have as smooth of a year as possible, as smooth of a month as possible. Okay. This plan is going to put you into the driver's seat of your experience. So I know for me, I really felt like school leadership was just happening to me, like drinking by a fire hose, knocking me on my backside. I really felt like I was out of control of my experience, that it was just too much coming at me and that I had no say in the matter. I was just reacting. This plan helps you get back into being intentional with your actions and getting back into the driver's seat of your experience and creating the experience you want versus having it happen to you. Okay. Okay. I was going to jump into something, but I'm constraining myself, going to hold back. And I just want you to know something before we get started. I really want to sell you on the value of this plan. I want your brain to really be on board. This isn't about doing it for me or doing it for your boss. This is about doing this for you, feeling good, scheduling time out. And I'm going to talk about all the obstacles that come into play with actually creating. There's like thinking about the 3-month plan, and then there's sitting down and carving out time for the 3-month plan. And then there's calendaring it. And then there's implementing it. And then there's all the mind dropping that comes in with all the interruptions. Okay. But I've been in your shoes, so honestly. And I've personally done this work. I continue to do this work. I refine it, which is why I offer this 3-month plan process every single season, because I'm constantly refining it based on what my plans are, what I'm doing for myself, for my business, for my clients. And I want to offer that to you because my goal is to have, to help as many school leaders and district leaders as possible. I want you to feel focused. I want you to feel confident, clear, calm, trust yourself, feeling prepared. It's such a light feeling when you know you have a plan in place. Then you just wake up and like, okay, I don't have to decide what I'm going to do today. I know what I'm going to do today. And we can talk about what that looks like, how you get yourself over the obstacles, which are, I don't want to do this today, or I don't feel like it today, or this happened today. And our brain wants to offer all these excuses. So I have worked with people for the last 8 years on this program, and I've refined this to the point that I know that it works. So this is a little bit different than probably any other kind of planning. If you've taken another planning course, or if you're like me and you're like, what's the latest and greatest journal or planning book that I should have? Like, what's the beautiful planner that I should come up with for the year? And I have tried everybody and everything, all the planners. And they actually worked for me. I did them for that year, or I started that year with good intentions, but I didn't consistently follow it up, which is another reason why I love the 3-month plan, because even if I get off track and I fall off course of my 3-month plan, another season comes in and we're back. We're back to trying it again. I don't have to wait for an entire year before I'm like, well, failed that year, write that one off. Hello, 26, goodbye, 25. What did I do? I forgot about my plan. This one, it reinvigorates you every 90 days, okay? We are not going to attempt to do everything. You can do anything in a 3-month plan that you want. You can accomplish anything of real priority. But what you can't do is everything. So we're not even going to try that. And actually, we have been trying it. We've been trying it and trying it and trying it. And you know what? We found that it doesn't work. So we're just going to give up the myth that we can get everything done. We're going to reject overwhelm. I tell myself, if I weren't overwhelmed, my brain is like, oh, this is so much work. But if it wasn't, what would we do? If I weren't feeling overwhelmed, what's my one next step? Baby steps, one next step. We're going to reject overwhelm. We're going to notice that issues, challenges, problems, things that come up that interrupt you or feel like emergencies, they're actually not problems. They're just a part of the job. So we're going to anticipate them and plan for them. I literally have my clients put time on their calendar for behaviors, for investigations, for conversations, for interruptions, for true emergencies. And then when they happen, you don't have to be so flustered and frustrated. They didn't happen. Okay. So we're going to measure your success a little bit differently than maybe you're used to, because what we're used to doing is we're used to looking at our to-do list and deciding if we've been successful or not by how many checks and how many things we've crossed off. The meter of success in this plan is going to be how you feel. How you feel about how you spent your day, how you're feeling about yourself, how you're feeling about your plan, how often you're not overworking. We're going to be looking at where your time flows. Are you overworking, overexerting, scheduling minute to minute to minute, and you have no downtime? Or is it calm, relaxed, paced? Do you have space and time to drive to and from central office, to walk on campus between classrooms, to actually eat a little bit of lunch, maybe use the bathroom every now and then, get some water, take a break, right? We're going to be measuring success in those ways, by how you feel, by how your body's feeling, by how you're regulating your physical needs, your emotional needs, your mental needs, your physical rest, all of that. Okay. It's not about how productive, how many things you cross off. It's about how you feel. So let's hit this home and solidify your desire to proactively plan. I want you to recall and think back to a time where you weren't planned. Let's talk about how you don't want to feel. We don't want to feel behind, that you remember that feeling when like you missed a deadline or you forgot a meeting, or you were so behind in your teacher observations, or you stay up late because you're working so hard because you got so behind, you're stressed, you're annoyed, you're flustered, you're rushed, you might feel embarrassed, you're very reactive, you're just whack-a-moling. And your identity is kind of like, I'm a hot mess. I just can't get it pulled together. I'm so overwhelmed. There's too much to do. Everybody's noticing. I'm embarrassed. It's the opposite of empowerment. And there's a solution. The simple solution is we carve some time out. We do this work. You watch this. It'll be about an hour. We'll watch this. We're going to implement this, and we're going to try it for 90 days. And if you love it, if it works for you, join EPC, come on in. I invite you to join EPC right now. If you're watching this live, it is January of 2025. Doors are open throughout the month of January for all the new cohorts to come in. It's an amazing year. These people are stellar. You want to be friends and colleagues with these fellow school principals out there. They're amazing. So here's what happens without planning. There's multiple needs, and they're coming at you all the directions. Everything feels like a priority because you don't have time to filter out what actually is a priority and what's not. It's very confusing. So you think, I'm just going to push myself out there and do all of it. I'm going to do everything. Whack-a-mole here, put out a fire there, have this conversation there, forget about that one. Oh, dropped the ball over here. Oh, made it to this meeting. Oh, didn't make it to that meeting. Oh my gosh, I have to stay up late and do that. I missed my kid's thing. And now I can't be home for dinner, and I'm staying awake, falling asleep on my computer. Now I'm checking emails 200 times a day because I'm so scared I'm going to miss something. Overwhelm sets in. Now you're in the overwhelm cycle, and it feels like somebody threw you in a, commercial sized dryer, and you're just, you're just bumbling about in there. Like you cannot seem to get your grasp. You can't feel grounded. You can't get your feet on the ground, right? And when everything's coming at you at once, all the interruptions, all of the demands, people's emotional energy, taking away from your emotional energy, they're like kind of dumping onto you, and then you feel then you just really can't focus for the day. And then you go home, and now you've got to work. And then it can pile up to where it feels like you can't dig yourself out. We know this approach doesn't work. Intellectually, we know that. We've tried it. We've done it. We've watched other people do it. We've experienced times where we haven't been planned and it feels terrible. We've experienced times when we have been planned and it feels great. Now, does our plan always go as planned? No. There's always plot twists, there's turns, there's detours, there's roadblocks, there's dead ends. But it's like going on a road trip. I love this analogy because it's the same as school leadership. If you want to go on a road trip, let's say you live in California and you want to get to New York, You cannot go from California to New York with no plan. At the very least, your plan has to be insert destination into GPS, action item, and then it will tell you. But you're still going to have to plan for where you're going to sleep. Are you going to sleep in the car? Or are you going to sleep in a hotel? You're going to sleep in an Airbnb. You're going to bring a camper. Are you going to drive an RV? You still are going to have to stop for gas. You have to plan. You're going to have to notice that your gas tank's getting low and plan for gas. You're going to have to eat meals and drink water, and you're going to have a plan. If you want to go from A to B, there has to be some kind of a plan. Now, you could say like, well, I could just go with the flow. But even then there's a plan. Like my dad told me a story where he hitchhiked from Iowa to California when he was in his early 20s or something. Even then that's a plan. I'm going to like get out on the road and put my thumb up. I think that's what hitchhiking is. And like he bummed rides off of people all the way to California and then all the way back. It's crazy. I think it was safer back then. Please don't do that. But even that is a plan. Even though you don't know, you're uncertain, then your next step is a plan. I would like you to feel a little more certain than I'm going to hitchhike as a school leader. I'm just going to put my thumb up and see where the wind takes me and who's driving and let other people be the driver. No, I want you to be the driver. I want you to have a plan. Intellectually, we know planning works. But the reason we don't plan, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, is that we don't think we have the time to plan. We don't slow down. I can't slow down. Just that thought. I can't slow down enough to do a plan. My schedule's too full. I don't have a plan. I don't think it's possible to reduce interruptions. There's just too many emergencies. These kids are off the chain. These teachers are off the chain. These parents are off the chain, right? Then we think that because everybody's off the chain, now we have to be off the chain. That doesn't have to be true. You can be on the chain. You can be on the 3-month plan train. Okay. When we think that everything else is the reason, and it's almost an excuse. Like we give ourselves a reason for not creating time for ourselves to plan. We stay in reaction mode. Things get overlooked. Last minute hustling. We're procrastinating because we don't want to do it. We already feel like we're behind and don't have the time. And then we never get to the important stuff, to the things that really matter, but they're not urgent. And we're stuck in the cycle. And what's sad for me, and I've witnessed it myself, and I've witnessed it in clients, and I've witnessed it in people who don't have leadership coaches. We're not in control of our experience. It's the saddest thing to me. You go through your entire career thinking that you don't have control, you don't have the experience. You don't have the experience that you wanted. You're like, school leadership? Well, that was a rough chapter. People leave the profession. Do you know 50% of principals leave within 5 years? 30% leave within 3 years, 50% leave within 5 years. Interesting stats. Why? Because they don't think they're cut out. They don't think they're capable. This plan will help you feel on top of things, manageable. You are in control of your time and energy. You are ahead of the game. You're not behind. And here's the other sad thing I see. People don't believe in themselves. They don't think they have what it takes. They leave, or they stay in the job. They try to do it robotically. They're constantly in reaction mode. They feel terrible at home. They feel terrible at work, and they don't make the impact because nobody wants to follow a leader who's in low energy and believing that nothing's working. So if we know this and we're sold, we're like, I'm going to plan, Angela, I am going to plan. Let's go. Here's why it's hard to change. I'm just going to call it out because I want you to create awareness when you have trouble sticking to your plan or trouble sitting down and planning. You're going to sit down and plan, and what's going to happen is the universe is going to test you a little bit. It's going to be like, okay, so you're committed to this. Let's see. Let me poke the bear a little bit. Let me see if there's any holes in this commitment. People are going to start demand your time and attention. There's going to be urgencies. You're going to have to say no to things that aren't in your plan. You're going to have to say that's going to have to go on the back burner, not today. We also haven't really been conditioned to value planning time as much as we value doing, like helping others and taking action. We feel good when we're taking action. We think that's being productive, but it's only productive if it's productive. There's a difference between busy and productive. I was very busy as a principal, and I wanted to look busy because I thought people would stop bothering me and asking me to do more if I was already super busy. It's a terrible theory and a terrible idea. Then I realized the best principals actually have tons of time. They've learned to honor their calendar and delegate and prioritize and constrain. They're not saying yes to everything. They're saying yes to the one thing, to the anything, to the one priority for that 3 months. And it is, even for myself, I have a lot of focus and attention challenges, and it can be a real challenge to honor your time for yourself. Honor your time to plan and think and prepare and explore and imagine, and to kind of what I call like forecast out, future forecasting, where you're thinking and planning your vision ahead in advance, looking at the future. So if you have any of these, I call them power thoughts because they're powerful over us if we believe them. I can't slow down to plan. There's too much to do and not enough time. Other things are more pressing and important. I don't know what's going to happen 3 months from now. Why would I create a plan? There's kind of this like, what's the value of this? It's like skeptical. I get you. I'm skeptical at times too. Things are coming up anyway. Why bother? It's just like, oh, can't possibly plan that far ahead. I can barely get today's work done, let alone 3 months. What are you thinking, lady? Right? But here's the truth. If it's just you and me in the room right now, and you and I were chatting face to face, and I said to you, what's coming up in February? Well, I've got to have teacher observations done by February. I've got to get the write-ups turned in. I have to have those things. Yeah, you're right. What's coming up in March? Well, spring break's in March, and we've got assessments, and we're prepping for testing. Yep, you're right. Spring fever also hits. So we're going to make sure we've got behavior management, regulation, and investigations on the calendar. What's coming up in April? You're going to be like, well, testing. That's going to be a big hitter. There's going to be some testing. Again, spring behaviors are there. And there's a lot of HR stuff going on in March and April, where I've got to talk to people about their assignments, staffing for next year, who's staying, who's going, lots of HR stuff, a lot of staffing. So letting people go. I'm going to do a course in March called Letting People Go Out of Love, but really managing HR stuff happens in February, March, and April. So you do have an idea of what's coming. You do know. You have the time. You do have an idea. So I want to invite you in. This use of time, planning, watching this for an hour and sitting down and planning for an hour, whether you do it right away or sometime within the next 72 hours, this time spent on your 3-month plan is going to be one of the most valuable ways you have spent your time as a principal, because planning now is going to make your life so much easier in the future. And when you plan out the future and you create a vision, it's so much easier for you to put it into actual presence and reality. Okay. So what's the plan? You're probably like, let's go. All right. Step 1, make a list. You know very well how to do this. It's called the to-do list. We all do it. Either we type it up or we write it down. Most of us have a rotating door of our to-do list, but we stop there. We got the list, but this list is going to include everything, not just professional stuff, not just your work stuff. You're one human. We have one list. All the personal stuff and all the professional stuff goes on one list and one calendar. Why? Because you're one human having one experience. You're one package. You cannot separate yourself and say, hey, left half, go and do the personal tasks while right half does the professional. You can't do that. There's you. They all go on the list. Now, some of you might do this. This isn't hard. And I want to tell you, this 3-month plan, it's technically not rocket science at all. There'll be some things in there you're like, hadn't thought about that. That's not the problem. The problem is implementation. And even that gets easy when you have coaching. Whether you self-coach or you have a coach, you have to manage your thoughts around your plan, your thoughts around your identity, your thoughts around the task itself. That's what feels hard about executing any kind of plan. So the steps I'm going to tell you right now, they aren't the hard part. What's hard is the coaching and the emotional regulation and the mental regulation to do the thing your brain's not going to want to do. Okay. So step 1's make that list, but you put everything on it. Deadlines, professional and personal. Events, professional and personal. Meetings and appointments. Yes, the dentist. Yes, the hair appointment. Yes, the kids stuff. All of it. Because if you're the one doing it, it should be on your calendar. And you might be a person who is writing out everything. And even though maybe your partner or spouse is doing some of it, you still want it on your calendar just as a reminder for you. That's okay. That's totally fine. I put my personal stuff in a different color on my Google Calendar. But it's all on one calendar. So I can see personal, professional, but they're 2 different colors. So I know what's going on. So deadlines, meetings and appointments, accomplishments. I want you to pick one goal for the 90 days. You're not doing 10 initiatives. You're not doing 10 things. If by the end of April, there was one thing that was signed, sealed, and delivered, what would it be? For a lot of people, it's getting all of that HR stuff taken care of. It's not even the testing. It's more about wrapping up HR conversations, getting the observations in, staffing assignments, letting people know if they're staying, they're coming back, where people are going to be, the whole process of hiring and getting people. I know there's been people would label it as a teacher shortage or a shortage in education right now. And when we believe that, it becomes very hard to find people. So they're a little forecasting into the future. I'm going to be doing a whole series on being able to attract your ideal teachers, attracting the right kinds of people into your school and how to make that happen. Okay. That's a little plug for coming up in March. So, or one of the months, March, April, can't remember. Now, the other thing that needs to go on this list, which we don't do, is your fun, your travel, your personal, your rest. You might want a wipeout weekend where you're just like, I want to stay in my pajamas all day, lay around, eat some cookies, and watch Netflix. You have permission to do that. Did you know that? Even with children. Children would love it. Just make up a snow day. If you live in a warm environment and you don't have snow, make up a snow day. Have a stay day, right? Make it fun. Do the things you would do if you couldn't go anywhere. And you didn't have to get ready for Zoom and nobody was going to see you for the day. Do it. Or plan a trip, plan a night out with your girlfriends, go out for dinner, grab a cup of coffee, get a glass of wine with your friends, whatever feels good for you. But you've got to put them on the calendar. They have to fit in. You know why? Because life happens between January and December. And if you don't plan any fun, or you only plan fun on the weekend, or you only plan fun in the summer, or your breaks, what about the other 11 months? Think about that. This is about your life, this 3-month plan. So what you're going to do is make the list. Everything goes on it. Step 2, prioritize this list based on your values, your personal values, what matters the most to you. And for people who are like, but I don't know, but I value everything. Everything's a priority. I want you to think about what would feel the best to have accomplished by the end of April. Do you want to ensure that the kids have their dentist appointments? Do you want to ensure that you have had a dentist appointment? Do you want to ensure that you did something on spring break and didn't just, fluff it away or rest it away or did nothing? And then you're like, where'd my break go? or you worked on your break. That would be terrible. But planning with intention and prioritizing based on your values. So you're looking at the list. What is my number one? If I had to prioritize, what would I do? You're going to have to do it. This is going to feel hard because it's going to feel like everything's a priority, but that's not the truth. The truth is, if you had to numerically put these tasks into order, you could do it. That's what I'm asking your brain to do. You ask your brain to do that. I have to make my brain do it. You have to make your brain do it. Just say, just do it. You don't have to live by it. You're not carving this in stone. You're like, if I had to put them in numerical order, how would I do it? And it just gives you an idea of what you value. You'll see it. You'll see it come out. Okay. Notice if it's work heavy, or notice if it's family heavy, or notice if there's no fun and play in it at all. They're all at the bottom. Or notice if it's the flip. That's where you start to see, for the next 90 days, I can sense that I'm really needing some fun because I put that all on the list. Or I notice I'm not having any fun. Why is that? Why am I valuing work so much over rest and play? Then once you've talked with yourself about that, step 3 is to map out the details. And this is going to feel tedious. It's where you do the actual reverse engineering of your plan, where you start with what's the outcome I desire? Why do I want this outcome? What's the benefit? What's the ripple effect? Why is it important? You get yourself on board with doing the work, and then you've got to do the technical mapping out. You have to do the actual, what has to be in place for this to occur. Well, for 5th grade promotion to happen, we've got to have, we have to have a location, we have to have a time, we have to have a date, we have to have chairs set up, we have to have speeches prepared, caps and gowns, whatever you see, then you start to get into this masculine energy of planning and doing. Okay. So step 1 is making the list, your brain draining it all out. Step 2 is going to be more of a feminine energy where you're going inward about how you feel and how you want to feel. It's going to be a feeling driven task or feeling driven process. And then step 3 is mapping out the details. You're getting into very masculine energetics where you're like, okay, these are the things that need to happen. And then step 4, you're going to go kind of back into a little more emotion where you have to make some decisions. You have to decide and delegate based on what you value. What are the top priorities? Let me make some decisions here. Let me cut off the extra for now because I'm not going to worry about that until another time. And then the art of delegation, which is a whole skill that I teach because I had to learn it the hard way. I was abdicating. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Here, you do it. Or I don't know how to do that. You do it. Or I'm just going to let somebody run with it and tell me what happened. That's abdicating responsibility versus delegating, which is you know what you want, you know the outcome, and you know that somebody else can do the job at 80% or better. And you're willing to let that go and let them do it their way and trust and empower them to take care of that and create space on your calendar. Okay. And then step 5 is what's left based on the priorities. You actually calendar it on to your Google Calendar or Outlook or whatever you use, or your paper calendar if you're still using paper. I highly recommend using one. So that's why I think electronic is best, but you can do it your way. That doesn't matter. What matters is you put it on the calendar and then you honor 9:00 on a Tuesday. I said I would, write out my observations. That's what I've got to do. Okay. So here's what happens. The brain is not going to want to do that thing on a Tuesday at 9:00. And it's going to resist you. So number 1, you're going to resist doing the plan because you're going to have thoughts, obstacle thoughts, I call them, where you are, you're thinking it's not going to work or you don't have the time. Those you have to coach yourself through. And then you sit down with the plan, and then it's going to feel tedious because you have to map out details. You're not going to want to do it. If you're like me, I'm a visionary. I like to think big, but the details just feel like weight, but I have to do that. And then what I notice is this, there actually isn't as many steps as my brain's complaining that there will be. I'm afraid there's going to be 2,000 steps to everything. And it's really about 5 to 10 at most. 10's even a lot, right? It's usually like, or if you have a huge project, like if you're writing a book or you're doing something, you're going to have chunks and mapping that out. But your 3-month plan, you should have 3 months to complete whatever task it is on your calendar that you're mapping backwards. Okay. Another pitfall we run into is we're not delegating. It's when we feel we have to have the control. We have to do it our way. Our way is the right way. Our way is the fastest way. Our way is the best way. This will be the death of your 3-month plan. You've got to trust. You have to empower others. You have to lean into the faith that these people are just as smart, just as capable as I am, maybe even better, by the way. But the better that you delegate and train them what the outcome is that you're looking for, and you don't scold them when it's wrong, you just help them adjust to get it right, you're going to find that delegation is going to be one of your best friends. Another pitfall is saying, not now. When someone's, do you got a minute? You got a minute? And you actually saying, not right now. Actually, I don't. Now, there are true emergencies. They really are. You know the difference. If you think about it, between a real 911, like a true emergency, something came up and you drop everything and go to immediately, versus someone saying like, oh, I really need to talk to you. It's very important. And then you realize they didn't plan to talk to you in advance, or they got a last minute ticket to, whatever. And they have to have your attention right then and there. We've got to be willing to say not now. Or if something comes up, like PTA is like, oh, I've got this great plan. I want to do this fundraiser and, get, new equipment for the playground. And you're like, that sounds amazing, but I can't be involved in that right now. So let's put that on the calendar for the next 90 days plan, the next 3-month plan. Or if you want to get started and research some things, and then we'll bring it up in the next plan in the next season, let's do that. But being able to say not now is so crucial to your plan working. Another pitfall, I did this. I'm so guilty of this. I would schedule back to back. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be super productive. And I would schedule from 7 to 8 and 8 to 9 and 9 to 10 and 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. No time for driving, no time for breathing, no time for thinking, or like after a meeting where we just got a task list and I'm like, I never had time to follow up. I was on to the next thing. I was rushing around. I wasn't eating. I was barely going to the bathroom unless it was really time to go. And I felt defeated by the end of each day because inevitably I got behind. Inevitably something didn't get done because I didn't schedule time. I didn't pace myself. And I thought I was being productive by planning back to back, but what it does is it actually defeats you. Okay. Now, again, I have said this is not rocket science. You create the to-do list, but you don't stop there. You have to organize it. You organize it through prioritization, and you can decide for yourself, like, what at the end of 3 months, what's the lens I want to have made my decisions for? What is the most important thing in the spring season for me? Is it the HR stuff? Maybe it's testing, prepping for testing stuff. Each district looks a little different. Maybe you guys are onboarding, you're doing big orientations and you're doing parent info nights and you're recruiting. That might be a huge push for you in the spring. What's the one thing at your site? Is it HR stuff and hiring and firing and on, just all of that, observations, staffing decisions? Is it testing prep, getting all of that ready? Is it orientations and registrations and, recruitment? What's the thing in spring? We're going to rally around that one thing, and that's going to be the lens through which, as long as that project's taken care of, then you can go to other things. But that's going to be the one lens you look through for the next 90 days. It won't be forever. It's just for for this one season. So every season you can put on a different lens. Like, in the winter, like for the fall and planning in the winter, I like to have that lens be my vision casting, my vision planning. So because I have that lull, there's a little bit of hibernation that happens in especially January, like where we can really plan out for the next, try to map out. I've noticed for me, like after when I try to push past 3 months, my brain's like, I'm not really sure. Like it feels like that. So I like to stick to it. And then at the end of each month, I review. So you can do your 3-month plan a couple of ways. Number one, you can do it every 3 months, or you can review. This is what I tend to do. At the end of a month, like now January is wrapping up. So I'm looking at what I accomplished in January, where I was in integrity, where I did the things I said I was going to do. And then I look into, okay, is this plan still feel in alignment? Has anything new come up? Any new ideas, any clarity? I might adjust. March, okay. April, oh, okay. And then at the end of February, I'll kind of do that again, check my 3-month plan, and then I'll start to see like, oh, now I want to be thinking about May. So you can do a rotating type of 3-month where at the end of each month, you're celebrating what went well, what you accomplished, really acknowledging yourself. You're looking to make sure that the next coming month, the essentials are getting done for that next month. And then you can peek into that third month, the new third month, right? That one drops off and one adds on. You can do it that way as well. So I'm so curious to know your thoughts, your questions, your concerns. I want to invite you in to EPC. There are a couple ways to work with me. You can work with me through EPC, which is the Empowered Principal Collaborative. It's a group coaching program. We meet weekly on Wednesdays. It's phenomenal. It's what I highly recommend. However, if you are a brand new principal, or if you're in a brand new position, or you have some like confidential or personal things or personnel things that you want to work on in a private setting, I do have a few one-on-one coaching sessions. You're welcome to schedule a consult. I will put those in wherever I drop this. I'll put the links down for you so that you can schedule a call with me if you have questions about EPC or you have questions about individual coaching. Those are the 2 ways you can currently work with me. Now, I am going to be kind of breaking out and doing some a la carte. So before, the only way that you would get access to the material was either one-on-one coaching or group. But this year, I'm going to expand out and try giving these things, like these kinds of trainings for all of the mastery series that I'm doing, which is time management, time mastery, planning mastery, balance mastery, emotional regulation mastery, leadership mastery, relationship mastery, communication mastery, HR mastery. All of those mastery series that I have created over the course of the last 8 years, I'm going to start offering them as a la carte programs where you just go into that program. So there's some programs that are going to be in the doing energy where it's a lot of like specific task oriented things. And then there will be some that are more like school leadership identity, like internal work, because professional development is really just personal development. In order for you to change and grow, you have to evolve your self-concept as a leader. And so I also offer programs that really dive deep into like the personal aspect, the personal growth, personal, loss, the personal gains, the personal lessons we've learned, and releasing those and really setting yourself free to open yourself up to become the next, version of you. Like you're shedding an old skin and putting on a new identity. We want to keep doing that because what we are asking kids to do every year is to evolve themselves in their belief in themselves, their trusting of themselves, honoring what they say they want to do and who they are. So they're evolving their integrity. Education is the business of human development. We're developing our integrity. We're developing alignment. We're constantly developing our awareness. We're learning new things. And we want to make sure that we as leaders are growing at the capacity and rate that our students are and that our teachers are. We don't want to slow down and stop and just hide behind the mask or the curtain of, leadership or administration or, oh, I'm an adult, I don't need to learn anymore. I finished that back, when I graduated from college. This is about evolution, continual growth, continual learning, continual evolution. So I invite you in to EPC, or if you're preferring one-on-one, we can talk about that, and I'll tell you the difference between the two. And there's no wrong way to coach. There's only the way that feels comfortable for you. So I hope you have enjoyed this training. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We will be doing this again in EPC for the summer. We're going to be doing our summer fun challenge in the Facebook group. I do it in the free Facebook group where everybody comes in and we do all kinds of fun things throughout the summer, and we post about them and we get everybody amped up. We'll do some planning sessions in the summer for your fall, so you don't have to feel behind. And we're going to get that feeling of being behind tampered down and in control so that you can have the best, most empowered school leadership experience ever. Talk to you guys real soon. Take good care of yourselves. Much love. Bye-bye.